Hello everybody, this is Gregory of 5 Minute Catholic Apologetics and Living, where 5 minutes of your time may get you to the divine. Today we're going to talk about where is Christianity, Catholic, Protestant, or Orthodox, going to be in about 50 years here in America. Now before we begin, let's start with a prayer. Nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritui Sancti, Amen. Gloria Patri et Filio et Spiritui Sancto, sicut erat principio et nunc et semper et saeculi saeculorum. Amen. All right, so where is American Catholicism going to be in 50 years? I think we've talked about this on some of the trends, and I think anyone who's watching these episodes knows what's the trend of Christianity in the United States, and it's not good. We talked about a Pew Research study that came out about how many Christians, and really it was a study about how many people go to church weekly, and they looked at Jews, they looked at pretty much every group, and Christians, whether it be Protestant, Orthodox, Catholic, we're all in the mid-20s. So mid-20s go once a week. And we know the rise of the nones, the non-affiliated. We know the rise of the irreligious. I mean, we're not going to spend time on that. We know that the trend's overall not good. We know, like in the Catholic world, only 6% of Catholics who go to public schools, their kids go to public schools, will be practicing their faith when those kids are 28. And it's only 12% when they go to a Catholic school education up until senior year. So those don't bode well. Pope Francis, or I should say Pope Benedict, talked about how the church was going to be smaller in the future. And I think no doubt, and if you see references to that in the book of Revelation as well, that we're going to be a smaller church. And what can we see, I think, in the Protestant world to kind of presage what the Catholic world is going to be? Because I think if you look at the tea leaves of liberal Protestantism, which really started over 100 years ago. I mean, this is where you get the breakaway of what's called the fundamentalists. The fundamentalist movement of Protestantism really started in the 1920s when the liberal elements started to creep in. And you look 100 years ago, it was all mainstream Protestant denominations were very large in America. In Europe, they weren't big at all, but you look at Methodism. Methodism is humongous in America. You look at Lutheranism, you look at Episcopalianism, all these groups, Baptists, they were very big here in the United States, and they started embracing these kind of liberal views. And so the fundamentalist movement broke away from that, and then eventually you had the evangelical movement, which broke away from that as well. But if you look at the mainstream Protestant groups, you can see what's happened to them the last 60 years. As they've embraced the spirit of the secular world, whichever way the wind's coming, we're going to adopt, you've seen their numbers dwindle to practically nothing. If you look at today, Lutheran churches, ELCA, PCA, whatever it is, Lutheran churches, Episcopalian churches, all of them, the numbers have dwindled. Because once you essentially accept the beliefs of secularism, you don't represent anything. It's like when we have the teen life mass here in the Catholic world, when you bring in the bad pop music, it's like you're just mimicking music that's on the radio, and the kids can smell it, and like, this is bad music. It doesn't stir them to come. What stirs them is Scola. That's what's going to stir them. But either here nor there. So in 50, 60 years, what's it going to be like? Well, I think you're going to see a lot of adaptation. I think in 50, 60 years, the only branches of Christianity that are really going to exist are going to be the ones that return. Right? They're going to return. And you see that today, of course, in the Catholic world, right? Where are the numbers growing in the Catholic world? It's in trad circles. It's in trad parishes, whether it be Ordinary of the Chair of St. Peter, whether it be TLM of various forms, whether it be even traditional Novus Ordo parishes. That's where the families are. If the Mass isn't crying, it's dying, right? That's the old saying. That's where you see growth, where you're going back to traditional values, social values, and Lex orandi, lex credendi, lex vivendi. You're just seeing the old school values inward and in the practice of the Holy Sacrifice of the Mass. In the Protestant world, it's going to be the same thing in 50, 60 years. Secularism is just going to pick away the large majority of Protestants. Just like let's be honest, picking away the large majority of Catholics. It's going to be even worse in 50, 60 years. And so what you're going to see is the only churches that are going to survive are those who go retro. And so it's going to be the strong family values, the strong conservative value Protestant churches, whether that be evangelical mega churches, whether it be smaller Baptist churches, they're still going to exist. What we can pretty much guarantee, unless there is a 180 of 180 of 180 turns, is that the mainline Protestant churches are going to be pretty much gone. You've seen in the Methodist world and in the Episcopalian world the schisms that have happened in the global churches of these two, where the African churches have broken away from the European churches because the European churches have, like for example, the Episcopalians, they have female priests and clergy, and then openly homosexual priests and clergy, and female openly homosexual priests and clergy as well. So you see that over there, they're schisming. So those churches are going to die off. So unless you go back to the root, unless you go back to the source, you're going to die off. And we're going to see that. Will the Catholic Church exist in 60 years? Of course, because Jesus said the gates of hell will never prevail on it. What's going to be the extent of the Catholic Church in America? Who's to say? We know that globally the church has moved south, Eastern Hemisphere and Southern Hemisphere. And we know that. So pretty soon we will have an African Pope, for example. What's it going to be in America? Who's to say? But I will guarantee that the remnant, the remainder of the Catholic Church in 60 years is going to be trad. And I would say the same thing for the Protestants. Guys, post in the comments if you agree or disagree. Until next time, take care, God bless, and pray.